there's actually no way to effectively deal with that Gardevoir EX that you mentioned. That could be an important strategy for this match.
Yeah, Jesse's list is pretty what you would expect from a Rhydon deck. Pretty turbo, pretty built towards going for the Iron Hands EX, which is really going to be the main card in this matchup for Jesse, using that Ampu very much in order to take additional prize cards. Cal, that's why he's going to want to stick that Gardevoir into the active spot more than likely. A couple of interesting cards to note for Cal does have mainly that Klefki, whose ability will turn off basic Pokemon's abilities. Cal wins the flip and goes first. That could slow Jesse Parker down quite a bit.
And it's a card easily accessible through Body Buddy Puffin, right? Which there's 4 copies of, along with Nestle, along with Artisan as well. So plenty of options to get that into play, and all of a sudden you're shutting down Jesse's double Squawk, the Mew, the Fezandipity, and even Miraidon EX itself to get any Lightning Pokemon in play, especially that Iron Hands EX, which is so threatening for Calvin.
Yeah, this list from Calvin is looking pretty similar to the list that Stefan Ivanov used at NAIC to get second place. It does look like he's got Unfair Stamp as opposed to the Hyper Aroma that Stefan played. Also a pair of Technical Machine Devolution, perhaps prepping for those Charizard EX decks out in the field. That was a card that kind of emerged after NAIC. Left key in the active spot. Pretty nice to open up your best starter in this matchup. Mischievous Lock, shutting down the abilities of all of your opponent's basic Pokemon. And also has Technical Machine Evolution in the hand. If Cal can piece together a board of a few Ralts, we could pretty quickly see a Gardevoir EX coming into play.
Now, funnily enough, he also has Radiant Greninja as his only way to potentially draw cards this turn, but it is also shut down by that Mischievous Lock from the Klefki. So you help yourself, you also hurt yourself a little bit, but I think the trade-off is really good for Jesse, and with the Iron Bundle being prized, it's gonna be... Oh no, that gets shut down by Klefki. I was thinking Flutter Mane, never mind. There's no way to push this Klefki out of the active, unless there's a Boss's Orders or Prime Catcher for Jesse to start us off with.
Yeah, that's gonna be the only way, so Jesse will likely have a slower start here, and he also has started the Iron Hands EX, which is honestly, while it is one of the best Pokemon in this matchup, it's really not a great starter. He's got 3 Retreat. It's pretty hard to move out of the active spot. You basically have to play a Prime Catcher or Switch Cart to do it. And you also need it to be on the bench in order to use Electric Generator to accelerate those energy cards to it. Now Cal here off the Ultra Ball will grab 1 Ralts, put it directly onto the bench, and I think that is probably going to be it for the turn. It looks like he had a couple of Arven in the hand, so that'll be nice. On the next turn, we know there's that TM Evo and also an energy card accompanying it, so he's got a pretty nice setup moving forward. But yeah, I mean, all he could really ask for was getting this Klefki immediately, and he was able to achieve that.
Now, I do wonder who won the coin flip and who chose to go first, because there's a very interesting dynamic. If Calvin gets to go first, then he can't use Technical Machine Evolution to evolve into Kirlias, and Jesse, if he manages a turn 1 Iron Hands EX, can potentially get 2 free turns of Ampere very much before Calvin can do anything about it. However, by allowing Calvin to go first, he can search for that Klefki to completely shut down Jesse. So, interesting dynamic here. We'll have to see what Jesse can piece here. Obviously, sees Calvin's underwhelming-ish start, but that Klefki is just so strong.
Does have a pretty decent hand here. Has the Arven, also Forest Sealstone already. So honestly, it's probably a good thing for Cal's sake that that Klefki was opened with. This is definitely a hand that could have pretty easily pieced together and amp you very much. Jesse here will take a moment to check the prize cards, see exactly which Pokemon are available to him, which ones are not. It does look like a switch card is prized. He does play 2 copies of the card. Now here off of this Arven, normally we'd see players immediately grabbing a Nest Ball to go get Miraidon to Tandem Unit, throw a bunch of basic Pokemon in play. Not an option because of the Klefki here. What is Jesse going to grab off of Arven here, Pablo?
I mean, I still think you perhaps go for the Nest Ball, and maybe you have an option to piece something with the Force Seal Stone, like you got a Raikou, and then, no, you can't get Prime Catcher and Squawk at the same time, so I guess you just start slowly prepping for something. You know your opponents also didn't get like the most fantastic start either, right? And you have the switch card, or the Arven for a switch card next turn potentially to start pressuring with the Raikou. Maybe that's the path I would consider here, as we see the Raikou getting pushed to the back of the deck. Does have a boss for potentially next turn.
Yeah, I think Arven is well in the hand, so that could even find Prime Catcher next turn. Just take a knockout with the Raikou. Not something that Cal could probably respond to super quickly, especially based on the single Ralts start he's had thus far. I think that's something that Miraidon players get a little too tunnel visioned on sometimes, is like, oh, amp you very much. Best attack in the deck, especially in this matchup. I have to go for it.
Only do that.
Yeah, and that's like the only thing they're thinking about. Jesse, being a very seasoned and experienced Miraidon player, knows that's not going to happen. That's unrealistic to happen every single game. And Raikou is really just the most efficient attacker in this deck, and really one of the most efficient attackers in the game. Lightning Rondo dealing 20 base damage, and then 20 more damage for each of your Pokemon. But each Pokemon on each player's bench combined. Now, interestingly, though, we will see the energy was attached return to the Iron Hands EX.
Yeah, so perhaps that tunnel vision coming into play here as well. Choosing to try to threaten with Iron Hands as opposed to guaranteeing an attack of sorts with the Raikou next turn. Maybe Jesse not confident that he'll be able to find an energy off of the Fleet-Footed to even piece that, so he's not going to get to attack anyways. Make sure that he has the Iron Hands EX threat going. But now Calvin's going to get a pretty comfortable turn. He has the Arven, he has the Buddy Puffin. He'll be able to fill up his bench with a couple more Ralts, use the Technical Machine Evolution with the energy that he has to get those Kirlias into play immediately. And those Kirlias are not basic Pokemon, therefore Klefki is not going to lock them out. So Jesse needs a powerful turn, otherwise Calvin starts to get out of control. And anytime a Gardevoir sets up without giving up a single prize card before that, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, now I will say, like, Miraidon is probably one of the decks that has the potential to come back from that spot because of the power Ampu very much provides. Taking extra prize cards on Pokemon that normally only give up one single prize, but this is certainly about as good as it could be for Cal Connor. In the starter that he had, in the setup he's got with the TM Evolution right away, and those pair of Ralts evolving all the way up to Kirlia, ready to start using Refinement and get through the deck.
We do see the double Kirlia coming into play. Technical Machine Evolution, a very, very cool card to achieve that. Gardevoir is probably the best deck to utilize it at this point in time. And now it's on Jesse to piece something out with the Arven, with the boss, and perhaps relying on Fleet-Footed a little bit. Does have the V-Star ability to try to piece something, but that Radiant Greninja not super helpful at this point in time.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting here. Jesse does have one copy of Professor's Research in the deck, so we could even just see Forest Sealstone grabbing that in order to find a new hand. I don't know that there's much that one single Arven or one single boss's orders can do to lead to you getting off an attack this turn.
Yeah, you don't even have any good abilities to use, right? If you use boss and then V-Star for Miraidon, then you're just filling up your bench, but you don't have an energy attachment, you don't have electric generators, you definitely don't have a way to switch out, so it'll be interesting to see what Jesse tries to piece here with the Force Seal Stone. I could not quite catch what he grabbed. Might have been that research, or might have been a Pokemon?
Yeah, not quite sure. We'll have to see what he goes with here. I have to imagine it's the research because he's shuffling his deck. The only other supporter option in hand really was the Arven this turn, so more than likely research is going to come through, discarding the hand to draw 7 fresh new cards.
It is the full art Professor's Research. And now the question comes for Jesse. Do you bench the Greninja? Do you bench the Blood Moon Ursa Luna that you currently have in your hand? There's no Pokemon recovery in Jesse's deck, so we're definitely not going to see Blood Moon Ursa Luna this whole game, as we see a good research with an electric generator, but a bunch of energy to go with it.
A bunch of energy does decrease the odds of the generator. Now Jesse is playing 16 lightning energy. That's still quite a few. Town Store is going to be utilized here in order to find any Pokemon tool card from the deck and put it into hand. A nice way to thin before utilizing that electric generator. Actually playing a second copy of Force Sealstone. You don't see that too often from these Miraidon players. Jesse really valuing the consistency option of the Star Alchemy v Star Power. Seeing how much he can thin before using this electric generator, very, very smart.
And he's going to be able to do a lot. He did find the Prime Catcher, so he's going to be able to unlock himself from that mischievous lock. We'll be able to potentially target down Akirlia, and if he gets a double hit off of Electric Generator, we will see an Ampu very much, so that research could completely turn things around here from Jesse from a very underwhelming turn to a very powerful one.
Yeah, can he pull off the Ampu very much this turn?
He can. He has Rescue Board, he has Prime Catcher,
okay, yeah,
and therefore it comes down to the 2 lightning energy from Electric Generator. I think you'd be happy getting an attack off, right, with Arm Press, but there is a possibility. Did draw 3 energies. There's another one in play. There's one prize that leaves 11 lightning energy left in the deck as we see the Prime Catcher.
Yeah, here it comes. We'll see if he's able to get a pair of lightning energy here. He's going to go for that concealed cards first, drawing 2 cards. One of them was a lightning energy at least, and the other being a nest ball. And this is, you know, an interesting argument, right? Do you go for the concealed cards or do you go for the generator? And we see kind of both sides of the coin with the 2 cards that Jesse drew, right? He drew an energy card, which decreases his odds of generator, but he also drew nest ball, which lets him thin another card out of the deck.
However, funnily enough, only 1 lightning energy hit. We didn't see the nest ball get played before the electric generator.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love to ask Jesse, how does he reason? How does he plan out his electric generator? It's only 1 energy hit, so we can still see an Arm Press from that Iron Hands. It's also still very worth it to take down one of your opponent's Kirlias, right, out of the 2 that he has. But obviously, Ampu very much would have been a much more powerful play at this point in time.
Yeah, an Arm Press going to be the choice here over going for something like the Lightning Rondo. You could have powered up that Raikou V if you wanted to, but yeah, Iron Hands being a great attacker here. It's got more HP thanks to the Bravery Charm, and it's also able to receive another energy card next turn to go for Ampu very much, because it's pretty unlikely Cal's going to be able to deal with it from here. 1 prize card for Jesse, but that's A-okay.
And the big reason why Calvin will have trouble dealing with his Iron Hands at this point in time is that there's currently no Psychic Energy in the discard pile, and obviously Refinement is a very powerful ability, but right now we can only use it once, right? We need to first establish more Kirlias, so Calvin's setup all of a sudden got really, really threatened, and that research was really fantastic for Jesse as he was able to hit that single copy of Prime Catcher, completely changed the game, and that's how powerful ace picks are, don't you think, Chip?
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see why Prime Catcher is often considered to be one of the most powerful. And speaking of powerful ace specs, Cal is going to flip the coin here, grabbing Unfair Stamp almost immediately off of the Arven. I was going to ask you, Pablo, you know, if you're sitting in Cal's shoes at this point, you're staring down an Iron Hands EX. It's got 280 HP thanks to the Bravery Charm. This is what you are scared of as a Gardevoir player, but Cal is so experienced. What's going through his mind right now? How does he respond to this potential threat on Jesse's side of the board?
I think at this point in time, he's looking for Psychic Energies on a Gardevoir EX. A Gardevoir EX has so much HP that it's not threatened at all by the Iron Hands EX, so that's one way you can mitigate the incoming damage that could happen at this point in time. However, with only 1 Refinement, with no energies in the discard pile other than the potential 1 from the Klefki retreating, it's gonna be a big ask for him to pull this off. Now, Unfair Stamp is super powerful, just like Prime Catcher, but it is 5 random cards, right? And if things don't work out, then a single energy, which Jesse plays a ton of, will put you in even deeper trouble.
Yeah, I think Cal is going to have to refinement into specifically 2 Psychic Energy cards here or Earthen Vessel if he wants to pull off the attack. It is going to be the refinements. He's got Ultra Ball in his hand, so if he draws those energies, he could discard them, go get that Gardevoir EX. Debating what to discard. It looks like it will be Scream Tail hitting that discard pile. Drawing 2. Does he find Earthen Vessel? He does find 2 energy cards.
Wow.
But one of them is the Darkness energy. This actually could still lead to an attack with Gardevoir EX here.
Yeah, you attach the Darkness from hand. Now, it will mean Calvin will need to discard something impactful, whether it's the boss or the Iono, both of which are very powerful cards. Iono to help his hand that's not so good next turn, or do you give up on the 1 copy of Boss's Orders that you have? But you do have double counter catcher available, so I would reckon the boss is likely the answer, and we're about to see that Miracle Force.
Yeah, indeed, it will be the Gardevoir EX. Cal is really debating on that extra card to discard here. You can tell it's a tough choice. He's going to even just bench the Ralts here. Not before using the town store. I don't think he's got any tool cards left. We know 1 TM Evo is prized. Oh no, he put a TM Evo back in the deck? I thought he had grabbed both of them out, but yeah, we'll regardless find that, and that will be the perfect card to discard now with the Ultra Ball. So the Boss's Orders and Iono are both options moving forward. That's actually really, really good. Now, the one problem here with this board, I will say, you know, Cal is going to get to pull off the attack here. He doesn't have any Curlias left in play.
No backup Curlias. And, I mean, I'm guessing Calvin doesn't know it, and if I were playing against Miraidon, I would always expect there to be a Raichu threat. But unfortunately for Jesse, there's no Raichu, and we talked about this in the beginning, right? There's no way to deal with that high HP of Gardevoir EX, so this is the perfect response for Calvin. And you can see how thin the margins are in the World Championships, right? Jesse barely getting out of the awkward hand with that Prime Catcher, the single copy, and then Calvin having the perfect refinement. Anything else different by either of these players, we could be speaking about a completely different game.
190 damage. Hit into that Iron Hands EX. Jesse with just 2 cards in hand at the moment due to Cal's unfair stamp. Will draw 1 to start the turn here shortly. But it does look like there's a discussion happening at the table between the players and the judges. Not exactly sure what's happening here. Try to get word. Could just be, you know, some minor thing. Just judges making sure everything is all good to go. I didn't notice anything. Did you, Pablo? I think
I did not. No, I did not notice anything. I mean, the only thing I'm noticing is this TM Devo that just needs to hit the foul. But other than that, game seems pretty clean to me so far. Don't see anything else that would merit a pause, but we'll get information about what's going on as soon as we can.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like a head judge is being brought to the table, actually. Potentially a discussion around pace of play or something like that.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I could think of at this point, but yeah, it's tough to see. I think these players are both, you know, it's a tough spot to be in, right? We're at the World Championships, but you got to keep up your pace, you know, keep things rolling, keep things moving. Didn't really notice anything too bad at this point, but yeah, the judges are on top of it, and we'll see exactly what ends up happening.
Now, it is important to note how both of these players are 6-0, right? So they are guaranteed to be playing tomorrow, and obviously they've gotten to this point by playing very meticulously, making the absolute perfect plays up to this point, perhaps getting a little lucky as well, right? Which is what you need to do well at these fantastic tournaments. So, you know, part of that, like that being super, super careful, perhaps we're seeing something where they missed, or I'm not sure. Jesse seems pretty relaxed, so
probably something happened on the other end of the table.
Yeah,
because there's also his opponent. Yeah, Jesse even yawning. You know, he's ready to go take a nap. It looks like. You know, he's just been pummeling through people with iron hands all day. You know.
Yeah, Jesse's chilling. He's like, I did well at the very first tournament of the season, and with Miraidon, right, hitting some generators. Now you just need to do it again at the World Championship to close out the season. Seems like a nice homage to the deck that he started off the season so strong.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's played a few different decks throughout the year, but Miraidon is definitely what he saw the most success with. I mean, a top 8 run and a second place run at the first 2 regionals of the year to kick things off. I think at the championship point leaderboards at the start of the season, Jesse was sitting at like 3rd or 2nd in North America for quite some time. Because he had a lot of local events on his resume as well. You know, it did fall off a little bit there at the end of the season, but still had a really respectable run, of course, throughout the year, and decided to stick with something he knew. for the World Championships, which you've got to absolutely respect. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? The 2017 World Championships. I had played the Mega Rayquaza deck throughout most of the year. Didn't seem like Mega Ray was the best for that World Championships, but it's what I had stuck with. It's what I knew. Chose to play it. Jesse has done the exact same thing, and it has paid off excellently thus far, 6-0 to start.
I really think what you're talking about is very important because I think a lot of players fixate so much on the meta and the meta call and the right 60 for the tournament, whereas your own confidence influences so much of your tournament run. The confidence that you're going to be making the right decision, you're going to be maximizing your chances, and even if you're unfavored in a 40-60 matchup, right, there is still a 40% chance that you win on paper. And then if you make better decisions than your opponents, if you know your deck in and out, and you really maximizing your percentages, perhaps surprising your opponent a little bit with your deck choice, be your inclusions, right? All of that can completely swing a game to your favor. So there is a lot of merit in just choosing the deck that gives you the most confidence, as opposed to, oh, it's the right pick for that tournament, based on that metagame spread.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good of a play the deck is for a tournament if you don't know how to play it, right?
Yeah, or you don't hit the right matchups, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a part of it. The matchups are a big deal. But, I mean, we're even seeing here, right, Jesse Parker sits down across from Gardevoir. Should be a good matchup for Miraidon on paper. Things don't always turn out to be the case. I mean, I think Cal is sitting in a pretty decent spot at this point. I think Jesse has taken a prize card, right? So he's up 5-6. You know, Cal's getting a hit in here where we are at this point in the game. But, yeah, we'll get word shortly on exactly what the discussion is. Both of these players having locked up a spot into day 2, definitely feeling good. With the 12 Swiss rounds, Pablo, that we're going to have, what record are you thinking players are going to need in order to feel pretty confident that they are at least getting to the asymmetrical cut that we're going to have?
Wait, is it 11 or 12? 11.
11.
Right? 11, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm guessing 911 should guarantee.
That would be crazy
right?
if it didn't.
I mean, that could be the asymmetrical card. Like, I'm not entirely sure. It could be that 9-2 is the asymmetrical, but I also think that now that we have the asymmetrical card, we might see less IDs in the last round, either to avoid the asymmetrical card or to just, like, make your matchup better. I don't know. It's just, since this is the first tournament, honestly, it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. It's actually very exciting to see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch what happens. And this is the same format that we're going to be using moving forward in regional championships throughout the year and internationals as well. So a lot of adjustments are going to have to be made. You know, things are pretty different from what we've done for the last, I don't know, how long has this tournament structure been in place? Like, 10 years, something like that?
Might be more,
Yeah. So, I mean, quite a change. I'd love to see Pokemon's always willing to change things up. It's going to be quite the mix-up, and we'll see, if it positively or negatively affects things. It's seeming like players aren't too upset about it at this point. It looks like judges are, speaking to the players, getting word about exactly what went down. Cal rocking back and forth, Jesse listening intently, getting ready to draw for turn here shortly.
Now, this game has been exciting so far, Chip. There's the prime catcher draw. There's the perfect refinement, right? Now it's now on Jesse's side. He doesn't have a Raichu to answer this potential Gardevoir yet. The Iron Bundle is prized. We also saw the generator. If Jesse hits a second energy off of that generator, we could be speaking of a 2-2-2 prize game, right? With a boss and then the bundle eventually unlocked. The bundle would have been unlocked from the prize cards. So we could be speaking of a very different game. So you can see how these margins are so small that I'm not sure how Jesse responds at this point in time.
Yeah, it's probably going to have to be Iron Hands, and then pick up a one-prize KO somewhere along the way. Something that's actually kind of sneaky that I think we could potentially see would be a Pheasantipity attack, right? Targeting down something on the bench. Can't imagine Cal is thinking too heavily about putting Manaphy into play. So maybe Pheasantipity cleans up that one odd prize in order to get around a Gardevoir, something like that.
Yeah, could be. Getting 3 energies, though, onto it could be a little tricky. There's no way Pheasantipity becomes a lightning-type Pokemon for a second, right?
no
to allow it to.
Right.
Yeah.
Does play a couple double turbo energy, so it makes it a little bit easier. Looks like play has commenced here. We're getting back into the game. Jesse drawing for turn and immediately utilizing the town store. It does look like a 2-prize penalty has been awarded, so Jesse will need to take 2 fewer prizes in order to win this game, and that changes things pretty massively, to be honest. And amp you very much this turn into a One prize KO on literally anything with literally any of Jesse's attackers means Jesse wins this game.
Yeah, now you even have enough time to attack into the Gardevoir EX, right? And make sure that you knock that out eventually. You could even two-hit KO this Gardevoir EX and knock it out with Amp you very much, taking the extra prize card as well. So plenty of avenues just opened up for Jesse, and we are getting confirmation that there was a double prize penalty for pace of play.
Jesse now free to utilize that Miraidon, is using Tandem Unit. And we do see the attachment for turn onto the Iron Hands, exactly what you were talking about. Now Jesse kind of feels fine to just get the hit in with the arm press here. What a quick adjustment from Jesse, recognizing the situation.
Yeah, your win condition is now completely different. All you need to do is now amp you very much this for 3 prizes, and all of a sudden you're the winner. So we're going to see another boss's orders, or a boss's orders from Calvin. We're going to see the Temple of Sinnoh nullifying the effects of this double turbo at this point in time, making it worth only 1 energy and a pass.
Yeah, just a hit as well, right?
Oh, I hit, sorry.
Got to get that Miracle Force damage in there. 190 is not irrelevant by any means. Now, can Jesse respond to this? That is the question. He's got Squawkabilly. What's the other card?
The other Squawkabilly.
2 Squawkabilly EX. That's a draw and a pass. Now back over to Cal. Now the question becomes for Cal, do you take this knockout?
And do you play this Iono?
Do you play the Iono? It's another good question.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, if Calvin takes the knockout, then Jesse gets 3 cards off of his Antipity. So I guess the Iono is a little less relevant because of his Antipity. 1 energy gives Jesse the win. So, and Calvin doesn't really have a better way to take a knockout. I mean, Iono could provide him with a better basic Pokemon to attack with, but then Jesse just needs to find one of the 3 boss's orders. Not looking good here for Calvin, and even though Jesse has that double prize penalty, he still gets to draw 5 cards from Iono because he hasn't actually taken those prize cards.
This is a pretty good draw here from Cal, able to use that Monkey Dory, attaches the Darkness Energy. Adrena Brain will move 3 damage counters from his side of the field to his opponents. I do set up for some interesting plays, interesting KOs, and it will be the Counter Catcher. After bossing last turn, Counter Catcher will now bring up the Iron Hands EX in order to clear all those Lightning Energy out of play.
And that means Jesse will not have any active or readily available attacker, and the 5 cards he got from Iono were 4 energies and 1 Ultra Ball chip. So Jesse just having too many energies or no energies when he needs them, and I think it's going to come down to this, like, flip the script. Yeah, Pheasant DPTX could come in super handy at this point in time.
We see that Monkey Dory moving 3 damage counters from the Gardevoir over to that Iron Hands EX. Only 10 HP remaining. Cal setting up for a multi-prize turn on the next turn. Can Jesse even pull off an attack this turn, let alone, you know, get an Ampu very much off, let alone KO the Gardevoir? Can he attack with anything?
Well,
he's got to look at all these energy cards.
There's so many, I know. He hasn't drawn from Flip the Script. He still has Greninja as well, but the more energies you have in your hand, the less likely your electric energy. More energy.
Does find that switch card, which actually could be kind of nice in order to heal that Iron Hands, keep it out of range of the Monkey Dory. Does have that Flip the Script, the brand new Pheasantipity, drawing 3 cards.
More energy, more Ultra Balls, and a Luminion, which can't get an Arven.
Yeah.
And get Electric Generator.
But how many energy cards are there?
I can't imagine there's many left in Jesse's deck at this point. And if you go for the Arven, then you can't play boss, right? So you can't win this turn. So despite the prize penalty, Calvin could still pull this off, I think.
Yeah, this is a very interesting position. I mean, Jesse can take this 1 prize KO this turn, maybe with something like the Raikou V sitting on the bench, and then try to close the game out by KOing the Gardevoir on Cal's bench next turn with any of his attackers. That may be the option. Professor Turo has already hit the discard pile for Cal. That would normally be a way that you could reset that Gardevoir, get it out of play. There is not a collapsed stadium in this list for Cal, so that won't be an option. I know one thing for sure, though, Pablo. This Electric Generator is huge.
It is so huge, Chip. And especially because I feel like there's 5 energy total in Jesse Parker's hand. Big electric generator coming in. No energy, no energy. One energy, barely getting there.
Does find an energy card. Now Jesse's got to ask the question, what do I attack with?
Even though the Raikou does have 200 HP, it is not completely out of range of the knockout of Gardevoir because of Monkey Dory's that Drain of Rain ability, allowing Gardevoir to hit those higher thresholds, which is very, very key. And now, another issue Jesse is facing is that he plays no Iono. He has no way to reshuffle those energies back into his deck for a potential future electric generator.
We're actually going to see him just send up the Iron Hands. He's going to use the switch card, like we mentioned earlier, healing that damage, using Fleet-Footed, drawing 1 extra card. It's another energy card.
What is happening?
Jesse is crossing his fingers here that Cal is going to play Iono this turn. Was that 4 energies? 5 energy cards?
5 in hand. You have to wonder if maybe playing those Ultra Balls would have been worth it to just get more Pokemon out of the deck to really get those margins in your favor a little bit. But does find the knockout, and now it's all on Jesse to find 2 prizes next turn.
Cal with 4 prizes remaining is going to have to take 2 knockouts. He's going to replace the stadium, uses Artisan now, searching the deck for any basic Pokemon that does not have a rule box and putting it onto the bench. It will be the second Monkey Dory. Not going to be super useful because both of his Darkness Energy are in play, but just thinning the deck.
Yeah, there's probably no easy way. Since Call did not promote the Gardevoir EX, there's probably no easy way to really get that energy back into the discard pile and then super out it back to be able to utilize the old Monkey Dory to potentially take down the Iron Hand. So interesting to see what Calvin tries to do here. We do see the Iono limiting Jesse's hand down to 4 cards only, which is still a pretty good amount, and all those energies heading back into the deck, which Jesse will be very grateful for.
Yeah, and with Artisan now being in play, Jesse will be able to shuffle the deck as well if he draws into Electric Generator to put those energy cards, assuming, of course, Cal takes a knockout here. Now, is Cal going to take a knockout here is the question, and it looks like the answer is no. Are we going for the Mind Bend?
We are indeed. How often do you see confusion? And now we're seeing it at one of the highest stake matches at NEIC, and now once again here at the World Championships with 2 undefeated players. That confusion coming in very handy in a pinch, right?
That's what you got to do, and that's what Cal's going for here, moving 3 damage counters over to that Iron Hands. You know, this Iron Hands just, taking 30, losing 30, taking 30, losing 30. And here comes the confusion on the Raikou very, very soon.
Now, ask Jesse, do you risk the coin flip? There's also the possibility to go, no, you can't tap you very much because of that Bravery Charm increasing Monkey Dory's HP all the way up to 160. And there's those 2 Squawk abilities once again showing up.
And with no knockout being taken from Cal, Artisan is not able to be used, so the energies can't be shuffled, but an Ultra Ball can be utilized here. Not before going for the Fleet-Footed, drawing a single card. Here is the Ultra Ball now, getting rid of probably both of the useless Squawk ability at this point. He does have Boss's Orders. And is there enough damage on that Gardevoir? Is it going to come down to a coin flip? Does Jesse just go for it?
I think he has to, right? He didn't get any energy. He didn't get anything significant. If he takes the prize card, then he knows now his deck is full of energies, right? So you just need to find one of those electric generators. And at this point, he must know that he has 1 prize. So he can rely on that 25% chance that he gets the electric generator, and that could finally push him beyond the finish line.
When a confused Pokemon attacks in the Pokemon TCG, you have to flip a coin. If heads, the attack works as normal. If tails, the attack fails and you deal 30 damage to yourself. And that is what this game will likely come down to. There is the flip, and it is the heads. Jesse Parker able to take the KO, taking the last 2 prizes he needs to get the win in game number 1.
Huge Boss's Orders into the confusion flip. That's the second time we've seen a huge confusion flip at the highest stakes. Wow, Chip. That was so back and forth, and it seemed like Calvin got like a ray of hope at that point. He saw how Jesse was struggling. The Iono, of course, was crucial for Jesse to potentially make this sort of comeback, and Calvin was able to sorry, Colin was not able to stop Jesse from taking those extra 2 prizes, and with the prize penalty, that decided the game.
And you have to wonder what things would have looked like if that 2 prize penalty hadn't happened. Cal was not in a terrible spot in what should be a pretty terrible matchup. No, I mean, I think you see Cal's veteran nature at this point, right? You know, he's someone who's been playing for a very long time, ever since he was extremely young. He knew how to approach this matchup, even though it was such a bad one on paper.
And that Iron Hands is very, very threatening. We saw it start off taking a knockout on Aculia, really slowing down Cal, but Cal was able to respond, tank a hit with the Gardevoir EX, take another KO, eliminating the energies from play and the resources for Jesse. However, 1 energy off of Electric Generator was just enough to allow Jesse take down the game, along with that crucial Confusion Flip, despite the Mind Bend being utilized. And Mind Bend can be good in a pinch, right? But it's still half the time it'll be useful, half the time it won't be.
Yeah, those attacks are pretty strong, though, because you give yourself a 50-50 chance to win a game that you had a 0% chance to win otherwise. And that's what Cal had to go for in the last game. See what happens here in game number 2. We are kicking things off. Jesse Parker will be going second, it looks like. Cal, of course, you choose to go first or second based on the result of game number 1. And immediately after starting a roll, plays a buddy-buddy pop it. And Cal is going to be playing quickly. No more pace of play penalties. And also with game 2 happening, he's going to have to win 2 games in a row if he wants to come away with 3 match points from this round.
Oh, man. All of time left in the round. Also, Gardevoir takes a little bit to really get going, to really start applying pressure. It's Miraidon, the deck that usually goes crazy fast in the beginning. So Calvin gonna need to slow things down with Klefki, but also gonna need to very quickly set up, as we see double Arbin being priced. Could be problematic to allow for that TM evolution play follow up next turn to really get things going.
Yeah, and that is the big key piece for the Gardevoir deck at this point in the metagame, really needing to utilize TM evolution to get those Pokemon into play as quickly as possible. And speaking of quickly as possible, Cal's got to make some decisions pretty fast here. Earthen Vessel will discard the basic Psychic Energy. You mentioned in game 1 how that is something that can be a problem for Gardevoir, getting your energy cards down into the discard pile. Cal's able to do that just now, get 1 down, get 2 more to hand, giving himself plenty of options to move forward.
Yeah, Earthen Vessel, the perfect card to accomplish that. Gets you energy, allows you to discard energy, gets you the energy to be discarded later. So overall, pretty perfect. And now we're going to see that Mischievous Luck immediately going down, completely halting Jesse's plan of potentially Squawk. However, I think I do see Boss's Orders in his hand, so he might be able to pull things off here.
Yeah, Boss's Orders into Squawk and Seize, draw a new hand. Also has a couple of energy cards here. And a little bit of a question, do you attach the energy cards to your Iron Hands, or do you go for the Squawk and Seize and hope to draw double turbo, plus a switch card, plus an electric generator? It's a lot to ask for, but it is possible.
It's a lot to ask for, especially because you've already exhausted your supporter option, right? You can't Arven for potentially the electric generator and a Force Seal Stone to help you get those cards. Now, very underwhelming draw here for Jesse. No real follow-up. Does have the Mew potentially to help him draw 1 extra card, I do believe, maybe 2 this turn if he ends up benching everything and attaching all the tool cards. But with Mew, a second Iron Hands, and the Zapdos in play, there's no room for Raikou. There's no room for Miraidon. There's no V Pokemon to make use of the 2 copies of Force Seal Stone. So that restart ability from you is really going to have to put in the work here. Not even choosing to attach.
Yeah, holding off, maybe waiting to see what the draw is before any decision is made. It will be an Arven as the hit, so that does open things up for the next turn with the pair of energy cards being found. Now, where does the attachment go? That is the question, and it looks like Iron Hands EX will be receiving that energy pass. Now, over to Cal. What does he find? It looks like it's just going to be an attach to the Ralts. And a pass? That's it?
Oh my, very underwhelming start here for Calvin. Those 2 Arvens being priced, definitely getting in the way of Calvin's setup, and nothing accomplished. So now Jesse, I mean, he doesn't want to go slow, but he definitely has the opportunity to seize the advantage here.
Looking through, checking some prize cards, it looks like this Arven, of course, grabbing any Pokemon tool card. any item card, adding them to the hands. Looking at the prizes for Jesse, there's nothing too bad. You know, in some matchups, prizing your Blood Moon or Saluna would be pretty terrible, but this is not one that Blood Moon comes into play that often. The Pheasantipity being prized could limit some draw power, but something that he may be able to take early on, and he's looking like he's eyeing up the Electric Generator and the Rescue Board. If he gets a 2-energy hit here, we're going to see an Ampu very much take out this Klefki.
I think he might only need 1 energy, right? Because
Does he have the double
yeah,
turbo?
I think he top decked the double turbo energy.
Oh, wow.
I believe so. Yeah, we could see Jesse beat the aggressor. I'm not entirely sure, Chip. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that was a top deck.
1 energy is all Jesse Parker needs to take 2 prize cards. 5 cards from the top. Does he see a basic lightning energy? There is the double hit. 2 energy being able to be placed into play on his lightning Pokemon however he would like. And Cal knows what's coming here. With 2 energy being put on one on the other, he knows double turbo is waiting, and it will be an Ampu very much. And this is why the matchup can be so tough for Gardevoir. If you stumble at all in the early game, it's just too much to overcome. It's too much to fight back. Will Cal be able to find a path back into this game? He's going to need a lot of help from the top of his deck.
He's not anywhere close to getting a Gardevoir EX set up. He did top deck an Ultra Ball, so he will be able to refinement. He can try to stall a little bit of time against the other Iron Hands EX thanks to that counter catcher. Does have Unfirst Stamp in his hand, so will be able to see other cards. Can't afford to conserve that Super Odd Research, just has to get a Kirlia, has to get the Unfirst Stamp, has to make something happen. It's not impossible, right? It's definitely not impossible. That Iron Hands gets stuck in the active for a long time, then perhaps the Screamtail sniping on the bench, something along those lines could happen. So Calvin not completely out of the game, but definitely against the ropes.
And, I mean, Jesse's only going to get a couple of cards to work with here. Now, he does have the Mew EX on the bench, so we could see the cards being drawn, thinned out of the hand, restart to draw a couple. And he does have a few outs here. Any Arven, any Prime Catcher, right? Well, any Prime Catcher. He's just got one. But he's got ways to move this Pokemon from the active spot and just continue this onslaught now. Cal will play the Buddy Buddy Poffin, finding 2 Pokemon with 70 HP or less, putting them directly onto the bench, grabbing a pair of 70 HP Ralts. Does Cal have Technical Machine Evolution and an energy card? That is what he's looking for to close off this turn.
If he does, then he probably wouldn't want to be shuffling right there because time is also of the essence. We're going to see that refinement. Does hit the energy, does have the Technical Machine Evolution.
There
wow.
we go. Massive opportunity here for Cal. What does Jesse have off the 2 cards? If this successfully buys Cal a turn, I mean, this is what he needs in order to fight back in this game. Otherwise, it could be a quick one in Jesse Parker's favor.
Both players are going 0 to 100 each turn, Chip. We think it's underwhelming for Jesse, turns things around. We think it's underwhelming for Calvin, turn things around, right? What is Jesse holding in his 2-card hand to try to keep up with this? I mean, if he can retreat, if he can get this Iron Hands back onto the bench and amp you very much once again, he's going to be in a very commanding position.
Radiant Greninja brought down from the Nest Ball. Sealed cards is an option here, drawing a couple more cards, just digging a little bit more. There is always the risk that you draw into your Kirlias. You know, I've seen Tord Reklev, when he's played Gardevoir in the past, actually hold off on playing his supporter for turn in order to guarantee that he can grab the Kirlias out of the deck with TM Evolution. But in this case, it works out just fine for Cal. 3 Kirlias in play. And what does Jesse have? It looks like there is an Arven.
An Arven, an Electric Generator, and a Boss's Order. So pretty much the perfect 3 cards to close out this game. You first grab your switch card off of your Arven, you thin your deck, you get another Iron Hands powered up as well whilst it's on the bench, and then you have the game-winning boss in your hand to just amp you very much for a 3rd consecutive turn. The plan is set for Jesse, but you have to expect against Gardevoir, your hand rarely stays the same every turn, right? Because they do play 4 Iono and that Unfirst Stamp.
Seen the unfair stamp, the Iono definitely still an option. There will be the switch cart being found. Jesse is also going to be hoping for some hits here off the Electric Generator in his hand. If he can get a couple of energy cards into play onto the Iron Hands, then it prevents Cal from going for this exact same play once again. Now, one nice thing for Jesse as well here is that he already has the Iron Bundle in play. That could be a way Cal could try to play around the Iron Hands Ampu very much as possible. It's going to put a lot more pressure on Cal. He may actually have to put 2 Gardevoir EX in play.
2 Gardevoir EX would perfectly play around the Iron Bundle play that you mentioned, Chip. So probably going to be his goal. Could even do it through the second copy of Technical Evolution, but big electric generator here as well for Jesse to have almost game on board, right?
Go.
Does hit 2 energies. Now there's 2 Iron Hands almost fully powered up. Still hasn't used the restart ability either, which will provide Jesse with more cards. And this time around, the Prime Catcher has not been utilized. Therefore, any Arven, even if Jesse's hand gets affected, could win him the game.
Now, one minor thing here. I think I would have liked to see Jesse put an energy card onto the Zapdos here. It does have 2 retreats, so it's got a potential to be stuck in the active. And he actually has drawn an energy now off of the Mew. Let's see if he'll attach it to Zapdos. No, it's actually just going right onto the Iron Hands. This is opening something up for Cal, I would say. I think putting an energy on the Zapdos would have been the most conservative and smartest thing Jesse could have done.
I agree, Chip. That Zapdos could be an issue, even pointing out to it as perhaps telling, yep, should have gone over here, right? Because now Counter Catcher, Scream Tail sniping. It's going to take a while for Calvin to like close out the game. If he does that, his bench is also almost full. Therefore, you don't get that bonus damage from Monkey Dory potentially to pull that off. But it's not going to be perfect.
Refinement discards the Technical Machine Evolution in order to find a Technical Machine Devolution, which will also be discarded pretty quickly from the next Refinement. There's a basic Psychic Energy we're going to see go down. Pair of Stadiums being found off of that. It's not super helpful. I guess the Temple of Sinnoh does turn off the double Turbo Energy, which is nice. Means that if the Zapdos is brought up, it can't be retreated with just a double Turbo Energy, so I guess that's not totally irrelevant here. And Cal does already have the Iono in hand.
Now that other Technical Machine Evolution that was just discarded, if you evolve the active Gardevoir and then you evolve the bench one, that's one way you can play around the Iron Bundle. Cal just banking on drawing both Gardevoir EXs off of this 6-card Iono.
I mean,
but
he's got to attack this turn, I think, right? Like,
yeah, at the very least, yeah, ideally, yes.
Yeah,
you're
so
right.
Going for the Technical Machine Evolution is just never going to be a super strong play. But, and what do you know,
yeah,
Pablo?
there you go.
It ends up working out.
Yeah, does find the double, even has a Prime Catcher to potentially take a knockout, right? Take 2 prizes and potentially put Jesse on a sort of clock as well. If you alternate between both Gardevoir EXs and Jesse is not able to find a Boss's Orders or Prime Catcher, we could see Calvin potentially run away with this game.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's going to really come down to what did Jesse Parker draw from this Iono. Now, I know he just took an Arven off the prize cards, so now that's at the bottom of the deck, something he's not going to have access to. He can't Mew restart into it. He's got plenty of outs still. I mean, at this point, even a Boss's Orders would win him the game. He's gotten a Lightning Energy and a Switch card. He can maybe thin some cards out here and go for the restart. It's going to be a close one.
Calvin debating whether to Counter Catcher, take 2 prizes, get on the board, or quite simply attack into the Iron Hands and set something up. I think at this point, yeah, it's going to be the attack onto the active.
Okay.
Potentially get a later knockout with Monkey Dory, try to knock out both Iron Hands at the same time. Top decks the Boss's Order.
Now, the Stadium card is in play. Oh, but he can retreat the active or switch card.
Yep.
Either way, Iron Hands able to take the knockout with Ampu very much, sending Jesse Parker to a 7-0 record into day 2. What a game. You can see just the dominance and the absolute pressure that Miraidon can throw out.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's favored against Gardevoir, right? And we just saw it. Those frail, low HP Pokemon that need to evolve are in trouble against the powerful hands of Iron Hands that amp you very much. Just too much for Calvin to handle. That double price penalty also giving him a disadvantage in the beginning, and I'm sure he's going to be watching his pace from here on out.
Yeah, good show of sportsmanship there from Cal, extending the hand, making sure to shake his opponent's hand, even after he received the DPL, even after he took a loss on stream. You know, he's still able to be a competitor, able to show respect to his opponent. Jesse Jesse Parker, yeah, moving to 7-0. What a run. What a way to start the World Championships. How about that?
Did you have Raiden at 7-0 in your World Bingo card?
I didn't, but honestly, it's not even worth making a World's Bingo card because anything can happen at the World Championships. We've seen some absolutely crazy things over the years. I mean, even thinking back to that very first World Championships where the Japanese players came and took the world by storm with their Team Magma deck, thinking back to 2016 when Shintaro Ito shocked the world with his Mega Audino deck. Could this be a year for Miraidon to shock the world?
Would you say the script has been flipped, perhaps, at this World Championship so far?
Serendipity call out. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I definitely could say the script has been flipped. I mean, Miraidon was not a deck that I think many people respected or expected to do super well coming into this event. But one of its worst matchups on paper has pretty typically been the Charizard. And Charizard, while it is still 12% of the room, it's definitely down a little bit. And Regidrago V-Star tends to have a pretty decent matchup against Charizard, it seems like. So if you make the call as the Miraidon player that the Regidragos are going to be able to deal with the Charizards. You as the Miraidon player feel pretty decently against the Regidrago. It's kind of like that 4D chess type action for Jesse, just making the extra call, figuring out what the meta is going to look like. And yeah, it's paid off so far. I have to imagine he's played against plenty of Regidragos on his run to this point.
I generally think that if you're going to have a successful Worlds run, it's a combination of your skill, your deck building, and also that little bit of luck that comes with hitting the matchup that you were mentioning. So, I mean, a quarter of the people here are playing Regidrago. Raiden tends to have a decent matchup, so 1 out of every 4 rounds on average, you're gonna be having some fun, right? And then you have Gardevoir, and then you have Lugia, right? Those are 3 of the 4 most popular decks, right? I fancy my chances with Raiden.
Yeah, I mean, and we see that many other players were thinking that way, Stefan, even off being one of them who we saw on stream earlier, playing a deck